gritty World War II action drama based on the Battle of Saipan, a real and pivotal confrontation in the Pacific during 1944. Unlike most war films that focus on large-scale invasions or frontline combat, Battle for Saipan zooms in on a small U.S. military hospital and its inhabitants, wounded soldiers, overwhelmed medics, and minimal defense forces, who must survive a sudden and deadly Japanese counterattack. At its center is Vic Webber, a battle-worn American medic thrust into leadership when chaos consumes the island. This film aims to highlight the brutal and personal cost of war through suspense, survival, and sacrifice, set against one of the most significant military operations in U.S. history. Historical context before diving into the plot. It's important to understand the real Battle of Saipan, which occurred from June 15th to July 9th, 1944. The United States launched an amphibious assault on Saipan, part of the Mariana Islands, in a strategic move to position air bases within bombing distance of mainland Japan. The battle was fierce, involving nearly 70,000 U.S. troops and 30,000 Japanese soldiers and civilians. The outcome significantly shifted the tide of the war in the Pacific. That what's often forgotten in historical retellings is the aftermath on the ground, particularly the wounded, the medics, and the support units who found themselves fighting to survive. Battle for Saipan brings this microcosm of war to the forefront. A detailed plot breakdown. Act 1. A fragile piece, the movie opens with serene shots of Saipan's lush jungle and ocean vistas. But the tranquility quickly dissolves into tension as whispers of Japanese movements loom. Inside a makeshift U.S. Army field hospital deep in the jungle, Vic Webber, Casper Van Dien, is seen tending to injured soldiers. He is a seasoned medic, gruff but composed, haunted by past losses, yet entirely devoted to his duty of saving lives. Dr. Lewis, Jeff Fahey, is the head physician, logical, calm, and focused on keeping the facility running. Meanwhile, Major William Porter Lewis Mandler, the commanding officer, grows increasingly concerned about the Japanese lines inching closer. The hospital is poorly defended, and most soldiers there are wounded. The tension is palpable. Adding to the mix is Corporal Hawkins, a young, inexperienced radio operator tasked with maintaining communication with U.S. naval forces. He's jumpy and naive, a stark contrast to the seasoned Vic and Dr. Lewis. The characters are rounded out by several wounded soldiers, including the humorous and spirited Private Tex Reynolds, who brings levity to an otherwise bleak environment. These personalities ground the film in emotional realism and set the stakes before the conflict erupts. Act 2. The attack begins. Everything changes when the Japanese launch a surprise counteroffensive. Mortars rain down on the jungle. The hospital shakes under heavy artillery fire. Tents collapse. Injured soldiers scream. Medics are gunned down mid-operation. Chaos swallows the entire base. Dr. Lewis is gravely wounded, and with many of the military officers either dead or missing, Vic steps up as the de facto leader. Despite being a non-combatant, Vic's knowledge of field logistics and calm under pressure makes him the only hope for the survivors, with a small group of walking wounded, a handful of nurses, and Hawkins clutching the radio. Vic organizes a retreat into the jungle. His mission isn't to fight. It's to save the injured and get them to safety. What follows is a gripping sequence of survival and evasion. The small group, dragging makeshift stretchers, navigates through thick jungle while dodging enemy patrols. They are low on food, medical supplies, and ammunition. Every step could lead to death. Act 3. The Jungle Trials. The jungle serves as both a physical and psychological battleground. As the survivors push forward, internal tensions mount. Some of the wounded want to surrender. Others blame Vic for leading them into the unknown. Hawkins grows increasingly paranoid, while Tex, despite a bullet wound in his leg, keeps morale up through crude jokes and tales from back home in Texas. In one of the film's most humanizing moments, the group stumbles upon a hidden cave, sheltering Japanese civilians, women, children, and an elderly priest. One soldier instinctively raises his rifle, but Vic intervenes. "They're not soldiers," he says, underscoring the film's recurring theme of compassion in war. Vic shares rations and tends to a wounded civilian boy despite the risk. This act of mercy causes conflict within the group. Some argue it's a liability, but it solidifies Vic as a moral compass. The group learns that a radio outpost on Hill 721 may still be operational. If they can reach it, they might be able to send a distress call. It becomes their new objective at ACT-4. Hill 721, the last stand after days of trekking and losing more comrades along the way. The group arrives at the ruined radio station. The structure is barely standing, and the radio equipment is in poor shape. Hawkins frantically attempts to make contact. Finally, a signal reaches a distant U.S. naval force, but time runs out. A Japanese banzai charge, a massed, desperate frontal attack, begins to crest the hill. Dozens of enemy soldiers descend upon the battered Americans with bayonets, grenades, and rifles. The climax unfolds in a whirlwind of close-quarters combat and raw emotion. Tex, despite his injuries, mans a mounted machine gun and lays down suppressive fire until he's gunned down. Porter, who had reunited with the group, sacrifices himself with a grenade to stop an advancing enemy squad. Hawkins is stabbed but manages to trigger a flare. Vic, bleeding and barely standing, continues treating the wounded and rallying the others. Just when the hilltop is about to fall, American planes arrive, raining fire upon the enemy positions. Reinforcements secure the area and the remaining survivors are rescued. Vic, covered in blood and ash, collapses from exhaustion. Epilogue. Remembrance. The film closes with Vic months later, recovering in a hospital. He visits the graves of Tex, Hawkins, and Dr. Lewis, each marked with quiet dignity. Vic leaves behind his medic's armband, now stained and worn, on the grave of his fallen friend. His voiceover reflects on the cost of war. I didn't fight for a flag or orders. I fought for the men beside me, the ones who couldn't fight for themselves. The final shot shows Saipan's coastline, quiet, beautiful, and forever changed. Character Vic Webber, the heart of the film. A medic who embodies the moral compass of the narrative. He evolves from a passive field technician into a reluctant but effective leader. His journey is not one of power, but of compassion and responsibility. Vic is not a traditional war hero. He's someone who rises in the face of overwhelming fear to protect life in a place designed to destroy it. A doctor. Lewis, though wounded early, Lewis serves as the mentor figure. His calm demeanor and selfless sacrifice emphasize the theme of service over survival. Major Porter, a strict but principled officer. His eventual sacrifice underlines the cost of leadership and the difficult choices military commanders must face. Tex Reynolds, comic relief and emotional support. His lightheartedness hides deep courage. His death is one of the film's most poignant moments. Corporal Hawkins, the rookie soldier whose arc moves from fear to bravery. His final act of radioing for help, even as he is mortally wounded, defines his growth. Themes 1. Humanity in the midst of war. Vic's decision to help Japanese civilians, even when it puts his team at risk, underscores the idea that war should never erase our humanity. Point 2. Survival versus sacrifice. The group is forced to weigh the value of individual survival against collective sacrifice. Several characters willingly give their lives to protect others. Point 3. The burden of leadership. Vic's reluctant rise to leadership explores how war forces individuals to take on responsibilities they never wanted but are uniquely suited for. Point 4. The forgotten frontlines. The film shines a light on medics, radio operators, and the wounded, often left out of mainstream war films, but vital to the reality of combat. The cinematography and the film's visual style uses claustrophobic jungle shots, handheld camera work, and tight framing to convey confusion and urgency. Explosions feel close and intimate, not spectacular, reinforcing the theme that war is messy and personal. Despite a lower budget than big studio war films, the movie makes excellent use of its setting. The sound design, especially during the attack on the hospital and the hilltop battle, is immersive, with bullets whizzing and mortars booming. In Battle for Saipan 2022 is not just a war movie, it's a story of resilience, leadership, and the fight to hold on to one's humanity. It portrays the overlooked corners of warfare, the medics, the wounded, and the small acts of bravery that history often forgets. With strong performances, particularly from Casper Van Dien, and a story rooted in historical tragedy, the film offers a compact but emotionally charged experience. It serves as both entertainment and a reminder of the real human costs behind wartime heroics. While it may not have the grandeur of Saving Private Ryan or Hacksaw Ridge, Battle for Saipan earns its place among meaningful war films by focusing on the smallest unit of war, the individual soul fighting to stay alive and stay human in a world collapsing into violence.